Why don't you tell us, like, what has your experience been to get to know a Fab Lab, what you've been exposed to there, what you've learned there?
So I first learned of the Fab Lab through my parents, because they knew I didn't recall it correctly. I don't recall it perfectly, but I believe it was because they knew my current mentor is our mentor in this.
Oh, so they introduced you to your mentor now?
Yes.
That is terrific. Wow. It's a family affair at your house too. That's terrific. And Madalena, how did you get introduced to digital fabrication and making?
Hi, so it was also through my parent, my father, because he ended up teaching in the same building as the Lab Aberto in Portugal is. So yeah, then I met there Professor Antonio, yes, and yeah, I got interested in this project that it's so awesome.
Oh, that's terrific. And I'll go to Rodrigo. Rodrigo, how did you get introduced to digital fabrication?
So it all started in the 7th grade with Professor Antonio being my physics and chemistry teacher, and in the end of the year he asked a group of students to join him on this project of his, and from there on it all started.
Wow. That's fantastic. And it's so great. You know, we have this acronym STEM with science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEAM with science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And we talk about putting this all together. And you know, for your physics teacher, your chemistry teacher to introduce you to making, you know, which is really what it's all about. It's applying physics, applying chemistry. That's absolutely terrific. So now let's go back over to the United States with the twin sisters. And I will ask Ayana. Ayana, how did you learn about digital fabrication?
I first was introduced to digital fabrication growing up in Glenville. And going like every summer to the recreation center, and they had their own kind of makerspace. And just getting informed, kind of just like going there, asking questions, and then just having that knowledge kind of introduced me to the Fab House.
Oh, that's pretty good. And Anaya, what about you?
I was introduced by Ayana. Since like most of the stuff we do like together, other than like going to school, having different classes, I learned about Fab House, and then because she was passing out flyers, and then I was like, it was interesting. So I just, yeah, that's pretty much my first experience, other than like doing crafts and stuff with my grandma and working on computers in school.
Oh, that's terrific. It's great that I guess sisters can share. I really appreciate that, having a couple of sisters on my own. So now I'm going to go back. As you know, for 18 months, we've been kind of learning differently because of COVID, whether it's been changes to what you do in school or even how you interact with the Fab Lab. So Jose, I'm going to come back to you, and if you could share some of your experiences, how has learning new things, new ideas become different because you've had to switch to a virtual environment or some changes because of COVID?
I did not have a lot of experience with the new change to virtual, but there was some time where I was working with my mentor and a friend of mine, who through online meetings, we were learning how to do electric circuits. And my teacher, it was through an app that helped you simulate the circuits.
That is amazing. Very different from me learning electronic circuits in a large lecture hall when I was in college. And you know, these things are changing, and we're learning how to deal with new educational paradigm shifts. Madalena, for you, how has COVID affected your learning?
So in a general view, I kind of like the virtual classes and so on. Here in Portugal, my teachers could adapt very well. And well, I like to be at home too, so it was not a problem. I think I learned pretty well during COVID. But now I guess I can talk about this picture I have in the slides. This was Fab Experience 2020 with Lavaberto, and it was completely remote. So they sent us home the kit to make things, and then we had Zoom and Slack to build the kit and have this Fab experience. And in this case, this is the polar graph I built it. So yeah, even during COVID and so on, the Fab Lab got to have these activities, and yeah, it was pretty good. I think we recovered really well.
That's terrific that you were able to have, you know, the virtual experience with the physical part attached to learn. And I see a pair of needle nose pliers in your hand, I think. So, you know, to learn how to use tools too is very, very important. And Rodrigo, for you in Portugal, you know, we heard the news, Portugal was closed too a little bit. How did this COVID learning, this virtual learning, affect you?
So, COVID learning was a little tough, to be honest, but I guess we all adapted to it. And I think the learning process remained with a little bit more energy to be given by us. We had to give a lot of energy to learn by ourselves, not only with a teacher helping. And this translated to Fab Lab Aberto as well, because programming is very fun, but alone is not as fun. Let's just say that. Yeah. So I think the programming experience had to insert a lot of more effort, personal effort, to learn the same way.
Okay, we're going to come back to your project, Rodrigo, but I'm going to go over to the United States and ask Anaya. Anaya, how did this COVID, I know Ohio, you know, got bombarded and things got shut down. How did your learning change this past year?
I think it changed, like, well, for me, it changed a lot, only because like I love going in person to school and I love school. Having to go online was a big shift because one, it can mess up like sleep schedules, and then also how active I was in class. But it really helped like focus, and then also having different kinds of motivation to go and do like schoolwork, go and be active in certain parts of school. But it was like you have to adjust to it because there's really nothing else you can do.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I've been through an awful lot of virtual meetings, and you know, it is what it is. Ayana, and for you, were you able to still be connected with the Fab Lab, with the Fab House in learning? Was that still possible?
Yes. So we did like weekly meetings over Zoom, and check-ins, and then like if there was something that needed to be done, like in terms of like drop-offs, like for example, during the time of COVID, I dropped off bags to the Glenville Recreation Center and also passed out flyers and things like that. So we really kept in touch, and just did check in, so we like knew where we were with each other and what needed to be done and when it needed to be done. So it wasn't hard because I we were introduced to each other during COVID, so it was like we didn't get the I guess what you say our old normal experience with the job. So it was just like it was like the job was introduced during COVID, so there wasn't really anything differently that we needed to like change up.
Okay. Well, I'm glad there was, you were still open, you were still interacting with the Fab Lab, with Fab House. That's fantastic. And I know a lot of Fab Labs around the world, a lot of maker spaces around the world had to make changes. They pushed for a large amount of personal protection, personal protection, and also for keeping the community active, right? Because it still became a place to produce materials. Jose, I'm going to come back to you. One thing about the Fab Lab, the physical Fab Lab, it's very hands-on. And whether you're doing that from a computer point of view in a programming setting or using hand tools to create a project, how is that hands-on learning, how has that changed? Let's say the way you think about things at school or you think about things at home. What have you liked about the hands-on process, I guess, is one way of putting the question.
It has changed my methods of learning. My experience at Fab Lab. That is actually your question. It has affected my perception of the practical part of science and technology, and I came to enjoy much more that certain part. I also learned, asked my mentor a lot of times about some concepts at school that I couldn't ask the teacher because there wasn't not much time. Like the knowledge is shown on the whiteboard on the photo shown on the picture.
Yeah, that's amazing that you can. You really can go into depth on a subject with your mentor for your own learning, for your own learning versus in school, there's kind of a regiment that the teacher has to follow, and it's no fault of the teachers. They just have so many time, to cover so much. And it's almost like you had a personal lesson plan, connected with the Fab Lab. For you, Madalena, what did you enjoy, or what did you get out of the hands-on learning? Because you definitely had to build something, and it looks like pretty much on your own.
Yes, that's right. My sister was also at home, so we built it together. So it was pretty good. I think the hands-on project, it's one of the best things at Fab Lab, as Jose said. It simplifies science and a lot of physics, that seems so complicated with all that math. And then you just have a LED light there, and then when you connect it to a circle, it lights up. So yeah, it really simplifies the science, and it made me more interested on it. I also like the math part and so on, but yeah, I think it's really good, and it's a way that we can pull youth from, like children and youth likes to put the hands on and so on. So they get to know more science in a way more practical and more useful to the world.
That's fantastic. So Ricardo, for you, what about the hands-on learning do you take away? Do you enjoy with your experience in the Fab Lab?
I give much of my experience to hands-on experience because throughout all these years there is a lot of history. For example, I think Lavaberto allowed me to apply my maker sense, just like Spider-Man, the spider sense. For example, the furniture was built in 2015 when we started the Lababert, and we had to use the power tools, learn the types of screwdrivers, the saw, how to saw. Yeah, that's soft skills that seem simple, but Lababerto taught us that. For example, also Arduino, that was on one of my frameworks where I worked a lot. It's use C++, which is very simple, and it's very easy to connect the programming world to the real world because it uses LEDs and sensors and things that we can touch instead of a simple print statement on the console. So it's more practical for us to interact with electronics and learn, for example, pulse width modulation. What is that? And we can start to understand how electronics work. And I honestly think that projects are the way for people to get interested and investing in learning, having a goal basically.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm looking at your picture. Looks like you have a little robot there
Exactly.
with those nice bright green wheels.
Yes.
I gotta believe that there might be some younger people in the lab that see what you're doing and even want to, ask you questions like, what's that, right?
Okay. So that is the rover project. It's basically a car with all-terrain possibility that is controlled wirelessly.
That looks pretty cool. I like those lime green wheels.
3D printed wheels.
Those 3D printed wheels. All right, I'm going to go over the Atlantic again. It's amazing how quickly I wish the Delta flight was like this, right? Or Airport Portugal flight was like this. Ayana, for you, what were kind of the hands-on learning skills that you got out of the Fab Lab that you really enjoyed?
There's a bunch. But I think my favorite is definitely working with the 3D printers and laser cutters. I love the laser cutter because it moves so fast and like you can actually see what it's doing while it's doing it. So like when the laser is like actually activated and you can watch it across anything, like for me when we did earrings, you can just watch it move across the plate of wood and it looks like so cool and it's like so interesting. And then for the 3D printer, just watching the material build up is really satisfying because you just watch it like melt from the nozzle. So that's really cool.
I'm still fascinated with it every time something prints in the back here that I do quite often, but I'm still fascinated by the technology and I know how it works, but I'll find myself stopping just to watch a 3D printer. And for the laser cutter, I got to say in our lab, I think the laser cutter is the most used piece of equipment. So Anaya, I'm going to get this right, you ladies. Anaya, how about for you? What is the hands-on part that you like the best?
I think teaching other people how to use the machines and how to make it. Like I like the computer part the most, and then the most fascinating part is watching everything get made. But I really like teaching like the younger, like our campers that came in. I like teaching them how to use like the software and then converting regular pictures into 3D designs that they can actually print and make.
That's pretty cool. What age do you start with those young campers? How old are they?
I think that they were 11 to 13-year-olds.
Wow, you're a great role model. Both you ladies are, for the younger kids to see you, and you're closer in age than somebody like me. I think they can really associate with that, which is terrific. You're able to share what you're doing. So now I'm going to go back to Jose. Jose, I want you to tell me a little bit about your favorite project that you've done in the Fab Lab and to tell us about it a little bit, or what you're currently working on, either way.
I'm going to speak about my current project, which is it's a robotic arm, which I've been making for a year. It was a project I found on the internet, and I found it interesting. So I wanted to do what was on the internet, which was make a robotic arm with it was actually I'm pretty sure I don't know the name in in English. I mean, but instead of a joystick, it's the
a controller.
Yes, it was like a controller, the objective of the initial project was to use just 4 axes of 4 different controllers with 1 axis on. But I decided that I wanted to compact it all in just a joystick. So I've been and I've already mounted all the pieces together, and the only thing that I need to do now is the code.
That's fantastic. So you got three axes. You have 6 degrees of motion on each one of those, and you're trying to put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 motors. I should have probably used motors as the word himself using the controllers, but there's 4 motors, and I'm trying to control all the motors only through my joystick.
Wow.
Through one joystick, I mean, through one joystick.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send me a video of that. That sounds pretty cool when you get it done. I really like, I like robots, you know, it's just kind of my thing. All right, Madalena, tell me a little bit more. Whether it's the picture you show of what you built at home, or maybe what you're currently working on, a project that you could tell us about.
Okay, so right now I'm more helping in the social media part of Lava Verde and so on, and I'm more on the communication department, let's say. The picture in the slide is one of the few projects I've done that, like, really projects. I've worked volunteering in other activities like boot camp, and that was one of my favorite ones because it was with my friends and so on. Yeah, so the one I have in the image is a polar graph, and basically it has 2 motors also and a pen. This one is for Mauser, maybe you know the company. And yeah, basically you can input some fichero. So with code, sorry. It has an Arduino, and it draws automatically the code you put it on with a pen. So my goal with this project was to draw in t-shirts, for example, and so with a pen that can draw on t-shirts, and then instead of being you drawing it, it's the machine. So you just put there the code in the Arduino, and then the Arduino and the motors do the drawing. Yeah.
And so, did you learn about Arduino in the Fab Lab too? Did you learn about programming there?
Yes, I did a bit. The programming part was made by them, but yeah.
Hey, as an engineer that's gone over to marketing, you're learning 2 really good skills about social media and then about the equipment in the Fab Lab. Okay, Rodrigo, tell me about your project, or tell us all about your project that's either your favorite or one you're currently working on.
It's the rover. Yeah, it's the green wheels. So the rover was a very important project for me because it had a lot of parts of engineering. The mechanical part, where we had to put a motor and distribute the energy to the wheels. And Antonio came up with an idea of using rubber bands to connect the motors to the wheels, for example. And then structurally, we had to come up with a base and wheels and wheel for the rover, which was 3D printed by David, an old colleague that made part of Lava Verde, and it had to be rugged, accommodate all the mounting needs for the other hardware, as well as electronic. We are using old laptop LiPo batteries. We salvaged them, and they were healthy, so we used them to power our rover. So reuse what is
Reuse,
old.
yeah, recycle,
Exactly.
repurpose. That is
Exactly.
fantastic. Wow,
And
well done.
and then we used Arduino as a platform for programming and wireless communication using Bluetooth.
Oh wow, that's terrific. And I know I see the beautiful mountains behind you, and you know it's more than just a robot. You know, the robotics are used in so many purposes now, whether it's search and rescue, distributing seeds. I've been on a project like that in areas that, you know, humans or animals can't go in. It's just fantastic. Certainly medical uses, you're learning all the right things, total system integration. Now going on in a fab lab, that's fantastic learning. All right, let's go across the ocean one more time. Anaya, what about for you? What's the favorite project, whether you're working on now or you have worked on in the past?
I think my favorite project with the Fab House would be making indigenous symbol earrings. I think mainly because you get to see like the different meanings of the symbols, and then also you get to see how interested people are in like painting them and putting them together. Outside of the Fab House would be robotics. I did a coding club, and we got to make our own robots, and we got to choose like what routes they took and how and where they went. So that would probably be my favorite things in like a making space.
Oh, that's great. I know there's a member of the Fab that helps out Sherry Lassiter, Sarah, and she has always these 3D printed earrings, and I'm always admiring them because they mean something. You know, it's not just going to the store, but when you have input into what you're wearing, and you've made it, I think that's so cool. Ayana, and for you, what is your favorite project or project you're working on now?
I think my favorite project would have to be also the indigenous symbol earrings, because it gives you an insight to someone else's culture and the meaning behind the symbols, and also it gives you a chance to share them with the world. So we just had a festival in Glenville where we actually sold the earrings.
Oh.
And so we told them like the story behind the earrings, like the meanings of the symbols and everything, and they were very interested. You know, it felt good to learn about a culture and then go ahead and share that culture for them to share it once again.
Yeah, and it now becomes unique, and hey, and you got a little bit of entrepreneurship spirit there with the business going, and that's one of the pillars of the Fab Foundation. So we got this education, you guys have community, got a little bit of entrepreneurship. It's all three of the pillars. So now I'm gonna go with a very difficult question. I know someone asked me earlier, and Antonio, if I ask difficult questions, this one I think is difficult. So I'll preference that. But if you had $1 trillion, and that's a lot of money, what could you do so that all young people could experience Fab Labs and maker spaces? What would you do And Jose, you're gonna handle this one first. And I know it's a tough question, but $1 trillion, that's a lot of money. I'm having a hard time getting a grasp on that number. So you got a lot of money. What would you do to help young people with that?
That's a lot of money. I'm a bit conflicted on using it for other causes, but if it's for education, I would probably, it will probably be better to first focus on some countries that are lacking education, supply for them for the children of their nation. For example, some countries in Africa, or even South America, for example.
That's
I mean, they're not
important.
countries. I mean continents.
Yes. Yeah. No, I understand. And you're right. I mean, there's some parts of the world, it's part of Fab Foundation mission is to make it accessible to everybody, but, to have basic education accessible to everybody. That is very, very profound. And I appreciate you're sharing your $1 trillion with other parts of the world. Madalena, for you, how would you use that $1 million to help young makers?
So my first thought was to, connect them somehow to the Fab Foundation, because I think you guys are doing a great work. So involving more in the project and the projects you have and seeing which project was more interesting, and to make you more possible to do your projects. And I also liked very much Jose's idea to give this knowledge about makers and so on to the countries that are poorer, and to the children, so they have more dreams and so on and can learn more about it. All over the world.
Yeah, that is terrific. Thank you. And Ricardo, for you, how would you take your $1 trillion and help young people learn about Fab Labs and makers and digital fabrication?
I think I would come up with 2 solutions. So the first one would be find out a necessity that they have, because normally when we have a necessity, our effort to work and learn increases. So if we found out any necessity that they have, we would approach them and try to teach them how to overcome them. And also, an idea that Antonio also shared with us is like having a caravan with experiences from the Fab Foundation that are quick and very thoughtful to share with other people.
You could be mobile.
Exactly.
You could be mobile from place to place. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Okay, Anaya, you have $1 trillion. That's a lot of money, and you've seen an awful lot with your working and working with youth. How would you spend that money to help bring digital fabrication to other young people?
I think I would spend a portion of it on organizing meetings to get interest and know what other people my age are interested in. And then from those meetings, I would put together probably an event that like aligns with their interests. So you have to actually have something that they're interested in, something that they'll participate in. And from there, create a bigger maker space with different perspectives on interests of like youth my age, and then probably like the rest on putting maker spaces in different cities.
That's important. It's not just the remote parts of the world, but cities too need maker spaces and Fab Labs. We certainly saw that with COVID, and I know firsthand with hospitals in need. Ayana, for you, $1 trillion, how would you spend it to help youth in making and fabricating, learning about it?
First, I would donate to the Fab House to help with just making it, I don't know, more like adaptable, or like making it more comfortable for teenagers. And then I would use a good portion of it to create like 15 mobile fab labs, like fab on wheels, just so it can be a place or like a program where Fab House travels and like actually goes to different communities and helps them learn free of charge, and just goes out of Ohio, out of the US, and just travels to different parts of the world, and helps kids learn about digital fabrication. That way that they're not their limits are like, there aren't that many limits, because if the Fab House is coming to you, they have the funding, and all you have to do is really show up and listen. I think that
yeah. I really like all of your guys' ideas. I might take a few of them. It's amazing with what you're thinking, you know, because we've established 3 Fab Labs in our company, and we've helped about 6 Fab Labs in different parts of the world. We have another one coming up, and you know, there's so many others in need. There's so many others in need, and I like this idea of help others to grow the network, to grow the education of digital fabrication. You know, Sonia, this is an amazing panel. It's an amazing group of young people that I know we are so fortunate to have, to bring the concepts of the Fab Foundation and digital making to life, and support the next generation. I really think I want to turn it over to you, because I'm excited. I think we're in really good hands.
Thanks, Marie, and thanks to our panelists, who I would say, please stay here with us, because we have a few questions for you from our participants in the chat. I agree, we are in wonderful hands, and I think our job is just to continue to support their leadership and their development. So it's indeed a pleasure. So we have 3 questions thus far in the chat. If others have questions for this wonderful group of young people, please place them in the chat. And we're gonna go ahead with this first question. Yvonne, if you are there and want to unmute yourself and go ahead and pose your question. You have to unmute.
The little red microphone.
Sorry, yeah. Thank you very much for the amazing conversation. I think Antonio has substitutes soon, so I think that it has been really interesting conversation. And I have a question. So imagine that at some point you become the Fab Lab manager. So you are the leader of the Fab Lab. What would you like to do differently? What would you change there?
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you, Yvonne. And so whoever would like to jump in and answer this question first, you are now in charge of the Fab Lab. What would you change there? What would you do differently?
Hi. I think something that I do differently would probably be first, getting interest. I don't know, like with me, everything is more so like about conversation, and then making a business based off of like interest to see like what you know and what you're sure will be successful within the business, because you know people are interested in it. I think the first thing that I would do is talk to my target audience, see what they're into, and then build my business based off of that.
Thank you, Naya. Ayana, go ahead.
Yeah. If I was in charge of the Fab Lab, I think I would reach out to audiences that people don't usually look at. Like, you don't really see like fab houses that work with like you see fab houses that work, or like fab labs that work with low income communities a lot, or because they're not like a normally targeted audience, but now that they're becoming one, they're a targeted audience. So I not take it from lower income communities, like keep that there, but also target maybe like foster homes or group homes, and just let them experience what it's like to actually work in a fab lab, and also like help them gain knowledge on what a design space is, and what it looks like and what it feels like to actually have that knowledge and be able to share that knowledge with other foster kids or other kids in a group home, and just things like that, so that they're also becoming a targeted audience along with low income communities.
Thank you, Ayana. Jose, Madalena, Rodrigo, any thoughts from you? If you were in charge of your Fab Lab, what you would change or do differently?
I think the people who are in charge already do a great job. So yeah, what I would do differently, maybe some more meaningful projects for the community, and also to help and to motivate the students, and to have more activities to call more people in to make the more known in the world and in the community. Yeah.
Thank you, Madalena.
I have an input. So I think Fab Lab is very strong in one thing, like makes us gives an hands-on experience that eventually will come up on our curriculum. So I think this would be a very good strength to make students or put students to work, and we work on a project, and the outcome will be like you can learn all of this. So basically, engage students into projects that they can refer them to in the future. That is, I guess I feel that my rover, or mine no, but our rover is a very meaningful project in that sense. And I think every project that actually gives an output that stays, even if I'm not there, it stays, and other people can learn from it. That's the main objective, and that's what I think that that should stay.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Jose, did you want to add to this, or would you like to go to the next question?
I don't have much to add that that other people have already added.
Okay, thank you. And I would just remind our Spanish speakers on the panel, if something doesn't come to you and you would prefer to say it in Spanish, you can do that.
Oh, it would be Portuguese.
Oh, thank you. I forgot they're in Portugal.
That's okay. Sonia, I was in Portugal. I learned obrigado and oi. So I know 2 words after being there for 2 weeks. These students are doing amazing. Okay.
Thank you for that reminder. And I was actually, my last international trip was to Lisbon. So I do know it's Portuguese. I don't know why I was thinking Spanish. The accents are similar. But if you want to say it in Portuguese, we do have someone on the call, your advisor and mentor, who can translate for us, okay? So if that's more comfortable for you, feel free. And we should have said that at the beginning. So this next question is from Angela. Angela, would you like to come online and pose your question?
Sure. Basically, I wanted to know if they had any ideas to get other students who have not been exposed to a fab lab interested. If a person were to build a fab lab in a community, how can that individual best approach schools or parents to get their children engaged in the lab?
Thank you for your question, Angela. So what thoughts do you have for her, youth leaders? They're going to build a new lab in a community. How would you suggest getting students and schools interested in participating in that lab?
Hi, this is Ayana speaking. If I were to have a new lab, how would I attract students? Okay,
yes.
Probably going to the schools. Like there's no better way to get at your targeted audience instead of directly speaking to them, other than directly speaking to them. So going to the schools in different places with youth and speaking to them, informing them about what fab is and how they can benefit from the lab. Like I know if someone just like came up to me and was like, well, I sell something, but you can't benefit from this thing, I wouldn't be interested. So just telling them how they can benefit from the lab, and also just kind of like making it sound great, like just being a great salesperson and making them actually like believe it and be interested, and also just like catching their attention. Like if you just like tell them things that they're like so not interested in, like I sell paper towels, but they aren't good at soaking up water or something like that, they won't be interested. So just telling them how they can benefit from the fab house or the fab lab, and letting them know that it's not a short-term thing. You can use the skills that you learn at the fab lab long-term, and also teach it to other youth, and also just people of all ages.
Mine, I would do something similar. My first thing would be to ask them what they're interested in, because I know like if I'm interested, it's like you're promised a future or a successful business if you're actually doing something that someone's interested in. It's kind of like shoe sales, like you get shoes, you see who's interested in them, you have like a supply and demand type of thing going, and when the supplies go up, when the demands go up, the supplies goes up. You keep your business going like that. With interest, you get like promised customers. So having people that, what's something else like TikTok, having people that's interested in TikTok right now, their views are going up, TikTok is making profits because they have a huge audience, and that's how they're keeping their business going. But if it's a huge business with little to no customers, then it won't be successful.
Thank you, Anaya and Ayana. Madalena, Jose, Rodrigo, did you want to answer this question?
Yes, I might have some ideas. So actually in Torres, which is a city near Lisbon, the Fab Lab is going to be in the school. So the students can go there after classes and all very connected. So I think that's a very good way to make the children interested in what they are doing there. But having it more like distant from the regular like day of work and school and so on, I think interesting key activities that, it's also get to know the public and the parents and the children to know what they are interested in, and like, a simple activity like 2 hours in one weekend where you can build like come and build a rover or come and see how this circuit works, as something that it's interesting, and the parents also think that it's a nice thing for their children to learn and to see, to know more about, to see if they're interested in, also to build your curriculum, which is really good, so you can learn things and so on. I think it's the key activities, like in the beginning they are small, and then you get to see if they are interested in doing some bigger projects then.
Thank you, Madalena. Great advice. Rodrigo, were you going to join?
Yeah, I actually have an idea about this. So I understand that one of the biggest problems with youth isn't knowing what they want, because the interests are very spread out. And I think one of the main ways to solve this would be like having a lot of different parts of science, not only science, but could be, for example, the name is, I forgot about the name. Tricotar, costura, ajuda, no?
With yeah, making tissues with nails and so on. Yeah.
Okay, no, I can't remember the name. But not only science stuff, but also more common stuff that could also be a part of the Fab Lab. For example, Lab Aberto once had an activity making soap, like soap to wash our hands. It's very simple, looks simple, but it created a community of people that were interested in that. Painting, for example, also can be a part of a Fab Lab that could attract youth. This way, I actually noticed since the initial plan of entering Fab Lab, I diverged from the initial plan. In the beginning, I was just to understand like mechanical parts of a printer that we had laying around on the Lab Aberto, but now I noticed that I diverged from the initial plan, and we learn along the way. So I think this is the key, having diversity that one person can start in, and then climb towards what they really find and identify as.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Jose, would you like to respond to this question?
Again, my other colleagues have said what I've said. I've already said what I mean. They've already given a very good opinion. I have more to add.
If I may add just one more thought, I
Yes.
think social media are also a key to broadcast the events and so on, and the projects that we are doing.
And it sounds like that's something that you work on now, Madalena. You mentioned you really do a lot with social media. Could you talk a little bit more about what kinds of things you're doing with social media to promote the Fab Lab?
Yeah, I'm more focused on Instagram. So yeah, it's basically in the beginning we have a big work to do and to get more followers and more people interested. So yeah, it's promoting events basically, like the Fab experience that was also remotely this year to broadcast the projects that are done and to post images and stories with interested stuff about it. So with also the prices and all the information related to it. So it's easy for the people to get to know exactly what they are doing. Sometimes the concept goes a little bit too fast. And I think it's really great to specify exactly what we are doing in this afternoon during these 2 hours. Yeah, and yeah, that it's sometimes it is also very great to put that it's free from charge, which some events are, and then yeah, the times and some key things that sometimes are forgot but are very important.
So Madalena, you're using Instagram to promote Lab Alberto.
Yes.
Yes. So you're promoting the Fab Lab. You created an Instagram account, but
yeah,
you're talking about the Fab Lab.
Yes, the Instagram account was already created by Professor Antonio and so on, and I'm helping with it to make more interesting and designs more appealing to the youth, mainly because that's the main audience of Instagram, but also to other people that use it and to have this key information that I talked about, not forgetting about this, and then the stories and so on. The social media are it's a great network to promote events like this, and many people don't know about it, and I think it's really important to get to them.
Thank you.
I am curious, and this question is for all of the panelists, as we think, because communication has come up as a theme, you know, from what Madalena was just talking about as it relates to Instagram, from what Anaya was talking about in terms of connecting with people and finding out their interests. All of those things to me are outreach and communications, right? And so I'm curious to know, in addition to Instagram, are there other social media platforms or other vehicles for communications and outreach that you think Fab Labs should use to connect with more young people? And this question is open to everyone. And I feel like Jose should go first if he'd like to.
Pardon, I couldn't hear you very well. Could you please repeat?
Yes. Are there other social media platforms or ways to communicate or outreach to young people that you think Fab Labs should use?
In regards to social media, there are a lot of platforms. For example, there are video platforms where you can share, for example, projects that the youth are making. Basically, you can also share. For example, there's also a post. I don't know. It's more post-based platforms where you can post and announce events to happen. There's also for example blogs where you can basically catalog what has happened in the local Fab Lab, basically.
Thank you for that, Jose. Rodrigo, Anaya, Ayana, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, I think a really good platform to use would be like TikTok. So it's like you can post different pictures and make them into like a video, or you can simply do a video that explains how to work technology, why people use them. You can also use it to just video like your process, what projects you are working on, how other people can benefit from the same projects, the steps that you took to create your final products, and also like trial and error, and just use it to promote Fab and give people insight into how to use design tools and what they are.
I agree with Ayana. I think TikTok is a good platform because it has such a huge like following. And then also Instagram. Instagram has like a business portion of it where you can make your own business account and then you can promote it throughout Instagram, so that it pops up on different people's feeds, different age groups, different social groups. I think the top three that I was thinking of is Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Yeah.
Thank you. Rodrigo, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm not a person from social media, so I don't have much to add.
And again, the question is social media so are there other ways that you think besides social media Fab Labs can communicate or outreach to more young people?
I think Fab Labs have the strong point of making things happen. So I think that could be the real marketing point for every Fab Lab, is you come with an idea, you get out with a project built. So this could be the strong point and where we could really work with.
Thank you, Rodrigo. We had one more question in our chat, And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So please correct me if you decide to come on. Halia had a question. Are you available to pose your question?
Hello.
Hello.
I have 5 dogs here, but first of all, I want to congratulate everyone for the projects. And my question is, would you like to have maker spaces in schools, or you prefer out of school spaces?
Hi, this is Ayana speaking, and I think in school makerspaces would be very beneficial and resourceful, because if there's like a direct space where kids can go to make, that's not an inconvenience. So having an in-school makerspace would be very convenient. So like after school, they can use the makerspace. They can use it for in-school projects. Teachers can use it to discover like a new way of teaching. Like for example, using it for mathematics classes, or really any class, just utilizing the makerspace in school as an in-school resource, and having kids learn about what a makerspace is and how to use it as a part of their academic curriculum. That would be like very convenient for kids.
I agree. I think my 2 takes on it will probably be like, I want one in school and out of school, because I like my school community and then connecting with things I do out of school. And I also like my outside of school, like different groups of people that I work and hang out with. So I would prefer, like, if we do have one in school, then that's good. And then also it's good outside of school.
I love that. We want Fab Labs and maker spaces everywhere. Jose, you have your hand up.
I would like to add that I believe it will be a great thing to have for example, clubs that are. Some schools have clubs that are focused on. And that are focus on the stuff that they do in Fab Labs, for example. And I think that's a great thing. Obviously, in my school, that isn't the case. Also, I believe it will be also beneficial to have other clubs, not just focused in science and technology and STEM, basically. It's to create some diversity of subjects for each student.
I love that response, Jose. We needed you on our K-12 integrations call yesterday, where we were talking with teachers about thinking about using these spaces, and they don't just have to be for science and engineering and math, but they can be for all of the subject areas. So thank you for sharing that. Madalena, I see your hand is up.
Yes, so yeah, I think Fab Labs in school are more for small communities and are also very important to call students in, but out of schools, maybe with bigger machines and so on, are also really important. Yeah, that's it. Both are important.
Another vote for Fab Labs and maker spaces everywhere. I like this. We need to turn this into a campaign, Marie.
Yes, we do. We can start with all the school libraries that don't know what to do with themselves. Don't quote me on that, please.
It's not recording, but, don't worry.
But we can definitely work to update them, because, you know, these students are in school. You know, we need to listen to them and what their needs are, and they've seen the light outside. They've seen Fab Labs and how they work outside. If we can help to bring them in, you know, we can have more than 5 great ambassadors here. We could have 5,000 great ambassadors, and then that will grow. But I agree with you, Sonia. We need them out, and then we need them in.
Absolutely. And Rodrigo, I think you were going to say something as well.
Yeah. I would like to add, having a fab lab at school is very important to be close to the students, but also a fab lab needs space, and that's a thing that I learned. Because working on projects taught me also to stay organized and needing space to have boxes with stuff. And we need space to store all of that and to have the 3D printers working while there are classes. For example, that could be a little annoying on close to a school. So I think it's a middle in between both, or at both would be great. That one at school close to students, and then another place with heavy machinery that could have less restrictions regarding weight and noise.
Thank you, Rodrigo. A beautiful thing about what you all are saying about both is also learning happens everywhere, right? It happens in school, but it also happens in our communities where we live and where we work, and where we get to learn with more people besides our peers at school, but we get to have intergenerational learning opportunities, right? Or learning opportunities with people who aren't teachers, but they might have another expertise that's really valuable to you to learn more about. So I think those are all great. And, you know, you might have that $1 trillion based on that question Marie posed earlier. So it's possible for these things to happen. I do want to turn back to Angela, who had an additional question in the chat.
Yes, I wanted to ask the youth, what are barriers that they have seen that the youth encounter in dealing with Fab Labs? And then do you have any suggestions to overcome these barriers?
All right, good question. What have been some barriers for your participation in a Fab Lab, and what might be some solutions or ways to overcome those barriers?
Hi, it's Naya. I think one barrier that's probably like the most obvious to everyone would be COVID. And I think a solution to that would be like Zoom calls or using social media to get in touch with different age groups. And then another barrier would probably be being comfortable with people of different age groups. For like you, some people don't really want to talk to people that are older than them, like a little like over, like, I don't know, I would say like 20. And then like within our age groups, I think when people do go like out of their age groups, it's like less of a connection. That you only have the connection of like the Fab House or like the maker spaces. And then being able to actually have conversations. I think conversations, like when you are building a conversation, it's good to have that one connection and then to also find different connections. And I think it gets a little harder once you go like further out of the age group, because like we're not in the same time, sort of. So I think that would be the first two that I think of.
Thanks, Anaya. What are other people's thinking? Some potential barriers for participation in a Fab Lab, and what some solutions might be?
I think a barrier would also be just like time management. This is kind of like a barrier like within a teen's life or a teen's life in general. So like just trying to balance learning about Fab and like doing sports, or trying to go to a lab and also trying to maintain school and good grades. So a potential solution for that, maybe just trying to pair it with something that they're already learning about that actually like helps them with their in-school academics and with also learning within the Fab Lab, or just maybe introducing design techniques from a lab to their teachers or to people who actually give them the work, and just having like maybe like an assignment that has to do with going to the Fab Lab and learning something new, and then making a project at the Fab Lab and then turning that in for a grade. That way they have the motivation, and also they don't have like that much time restraint.
I'm nodding my head to that. Thank you, Anaya and Ayana. Ayana, I think we're going to have to use that last one as a hook to get school participants over at Fab House by reaching out to teachers and connecting around an assignment. I love that. I saw Madalena shaking her head a lot. Is there something you wanted to add, Madalena?
No, I basically agree very much what they said. And yeah, having the Fab Lab near the school is also a very easier way to get to make projects in it.
Awesome. Okay, I'm just checking the chat. Someone in the chat just quickly put the question, are school hours a problem? And so, Alea, do you want to say more about that question? And I may have just said your name completely wrong, or the 5 dogs may be busy right now. But the question in the chat is, school hours a problem? So I'm going to interpret that. Oh, here we go. Would you like to see the Fab Lab integrated into the curriculum rather than being something on its own? And I see some heads nodding. Go ahead.
I would say definitely, because it'll be like very convenient if it's a part of the curriculum. Then they have more time, they can put in more effort without trying to balance their curriculum and the Fab House, because then it'll just be one thing. It'll also give them a chance to use the Fab Lab in different ways. Like the most obvious way to use the Fab Lab is like for like design purposes, but also kind of pairing that with math, social studies, and just using things like that will help them not only use it for design purposes, but also using it for things inside the school with it. And then if it's not only one thing by itself, it just gives them a chance to utilize it more and use it more as a.
Yeah, I agree with Anna.
I would like to add, regarding Angela's question, still I'm trying to mix both questions in the same. A problem that occurs to the Fab Labs is disinterest. Like over the time, the project falls, I think, because imagine that your project is building. So you are building, it's very interactive, you are very engaged in it. But the problem can occur when like suddenly you stagnate. There's no evolution, and probably that's due to no time or school taking some time out of it. But I truly understand that school has to have its own time, and it has, I think, to be separate from the curriculum in the terms of school, because I think Fab Labs would lose a little of their independence if they were attached to schools, very integrated. And I think the independence of Fab Labs are very healthy to grow and not stay with the initial terms that they signed. And that's my point of view regarding these two questions.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Madalena, your hand's up.
Yeah, I think the Fab Labs and technology should definitely be part of the curriculum, but I also believe that not every student likes these tech things and so on. But I think it's very important to get other areas, even like literature and languages and even philosophy and art inside technology. And technology is always something regarding Fab Labs and so on. So I think as technology will live in our lives like forever and even more in the future, I think that's really interesting too.
Thank you, Madalena. I love the concepts that you all raised there. Independence, right? Which unfortunately are, as a term, is not always the culture of school in most parts of the world. And then also integration, really thinking about the fact that in our lives, technology is pretty ubiquitous, it's very integrated into everything that we do. How do we also do that with FAB across subject areas? You all have just been such an amazing panel. And I really want to say thank you again for being here with us. I think we're going to begin to wrap up so that people can have a few minutes between this time with us in their next session. Oh, and it looks like you all have a history teacher in Portugal who's here on the line. So Antonio, you're gonna have to connect with this history teacher if you're not already connected, who's really excited about FAB. And I just, again, Jose, Madalena, Rodrigo, Anaya, and Ayana, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and your time with us today. Marie, thank you for your leadership here on the panel as well.
No, thank you, Sonia.
A million thanks to Lydia, who is always behind the scenes making things work. And of course, thank you to the entire international cohort group who helped put together these youth panels today. Please enjoy the rest of the Fab 16 conference. It's free, so pop into some of these sessions, a lot of interesting topics and people. And we will see you all sometime in Zoom land, somewhere else on another day. Bye, everybody.
That's great, son. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.